I've been reading endless comments from people that are like, oh, we are not happy about the OCG ban list. Well, first off, it's their format, alright? They do things differently than we do in the TCG. The only thing that we like to do is look at the OCG ban list because of the possible implications that we end up seeing from one list transitioning into the next. So we're going to talk about the implications of the OCG ban list and really why we're not happy. Let's dig on into this, shall we? The OCG paves the way for a lot of the TCG decisions, and some of their hits just weren't up to par with what the TCG wants. Now, a couple of things I do want to say about this ban list. I was having a discussion with Len this morning, and he said, based on the way that this set is looking, that there's not going to be a game-changing deck in Eternity Code Talker. And having thought about this for a little bit, I actually kind of agree. I think the way that this list was set up was they're trying to preserve the current metagame, because there's really nothing coming out here in the near future that changes what we have. And when you look at that thought compared to the list, it honestly makes sense, sad as it is to say. So I'm not seeing any game-changing stuff anytime coming soon based on the way that this list looks. Now, things worth mentioning here. As a thought, getting banned. Now, thought going away was a very nice change of pace. And I said yesterday in the actual video that I talked about the card months ago, and it's such a powerful card that the longer that it exists in the game, you know, conditional effects are bonkers. If you guys haven't realized that yet. Alright, like, making effects that cannot be chained to effectively, or you can't really negate unless skill drain's on the field, is crazy. So, if the TCG brings over this clause, I think that we've officially put the nail in the coffin for Lunalight Orcust. Now, I know you can probably still try to turbo out an Appaloosa. That's fine. But you can't consistently do that. Not in the way that you were consistently able to make Azathoth. Simple rank 4 that just was able to change itself up and do some cheesy things. Yeah, that's kind of where we had to amputate it. So I think taking Azathoth out of the picture, eliminating the Lunalight Orcust. I know the Lunalight Orcust isn't even like a super relevant deck. It's like 1 to 2 show up per like 14 regular Orcust. But making that combo and things a little bit more vulnerable in the long run definitely saves a lot of face for that. So, as a thought, very good, very good. Now, into the one of section here. Zodiac Dryden. Now, I've heard people, joking, by the way, talk about going barrage effect target area 0, and then you're able to climb up your whole area 0 combo, and then you can end on a Dryden as well. Now, this is just something extremely cheesy. For the most part, if the TCG gets Dryden back to 1, I think the best thing that we'll probably see is 3 barrage and an inclusion of a Whiptail in the main deck. That would be the engine. We were also talking about if Lunalight Orcust continues to still exist, you actually get the option to just chuck a 9 into the Dryden for the additional disruption off of the opponent. Dryden coming back, I don't know how well it will settle for competitive play, to be completely honest with you, because main decking 4 cards for 1 extra deck disruption doesn't really go well with me. I feel like there's a consistency issue there. I mean, we already did it with Garnet, so having some more Garnets in my deck, I guess, necessarily won't hurt me. But it's interesting for what we could potentially see out of that. And like I said, the inclusion of this in other decks like Lunalight Orcust, it's a little bit spicier for what you would really expect. But is it enough to make players want to play that one disruption? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you on that. I do think that having more options available is a good thing, but this is like the only other thing that I could really see the TCG wanting to follow suit off of this list, because the two ofs, and I mean beginning of the end here, beginning of the end was because of Dark World FTK for 1-1 format, but we're going to talk about that. So, now let's get to the part that everybody is frustrated on. It's the Orca Sense. So, everybody in the TCG, as of seeing the ban list, was like, oh my gosh, this list is such a joke. The TCG will never follow that. We want Babel banned. Okay, so one thing I have to say when defending the OCG here, when they use the two ofs, they're doing this as a consistency hit. And that comes back to my thought about Eternity Code here. If we are not releasing another relevant deck anytime soon, and they want to keep the current format alive long enough that the new mechanic is released, or something needs to happen at some point, then we're going to use the two of list for consistency hits. Actually, I think that's personally quite ingenious. Now, when it comes to the TCG, we have Orcust, we have a different metagame perspective than they do. Players are looking at going after Babel. They're like, alright, we need to do something about this. And a lot of people need to understand that if you go after Babel, the deck is no longer able to do, the disruption combo on the opponent's turn. Thing that separates the deck from it and Fluffles in being tier 3. Now, I'm not saying that banning Babel isn't the worst case scenario. It depends on where the TCG wants to go with the hits on this list. I do think that if we take a different approach than this list, and we actually Her Babel, Orcust is effectively done. Now, the TCG can do some different things here besides Harp and Galtea to 2. They do have the option of... I've been saying Harp to 1. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's not good enough, Robbie. And I agree, but it's a consistency hit. It's a more extreme consistency hit than what the OCG really looked like they wanted to do here. And putting Harp to 1, if it's crowed, your combo kind of stops midway through. You're forced to kind of sit in a rock and a hard place. Now, you can also go after Galtea, put it to 1, and then you definitely put the nail in the coffin for the deck. But once again, it depends. How much do we want to keep these decks alive going forward? How much do we want to see this going forward? Because, again, if nothing new is coming out to change the power structure here, they want to keep this metagame alive. It's an interesting food for thought, I guess. Now, on the topic of other things that we can see out of this list. Now, I did say that the OCG likes to use their two ofs to kind of balance out the metagame. I could actually see Mind Control potentially going to a number other than, 3. Now, the logic behind this is it's a very powerful card. You're able to take an opponent's monster, you're able to use it as material, you're able to basically link out, you get an auto free out in the form of a top deck. Once again, I think that the TCG could very much adapt this, a nice little slap on the wrist, per se, for it. Outside of everything else on this list, certain things I don't think we're going to get until much later, like the Deep Sea Diva. I don't think we're going to see that till our next list, once we start approaching Eternity Code, unless they just want to shotgun it a little bit, but I don't foresee that out of this list. So, here are my final thoughts on this, okay? I think for us to get angry about this is hilarious, first off. I think that the TCG will take a much more aggressive stance on Orcas. I would say that if they don't, then Eternity Code has nothing good to offer us. Going forward, we could see Dryden back. I think Azathoth's gone. Bye, buddy. We'll miss you. Not really. Nobody's going to miss Azathoth. Unless you're some cheesy Lunalite player. But that's neither here nor there. And seeing Dryden's splash ability back in the metagame, I think could be relatively interesting. But outside of that, there's nothing too interesting to mention here. It's just, it really is sus that we're doing nothing else about this format. And there might not be anything good coming out. Just saying. It's that time of year. But what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Well, catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out. The ride never truly ends. Thank you, patrons, for helping support the channel. Without you guys, I don't know if I'd still be doing this. And for those of you that like Cardfight Vanguard, FanCool40 is here for all your content needs. And those of you asking if I sell cards, mcoolgames.com for all your trading card game needs. Check the description for more interesting info. Thanks for watching, guys.